Hi everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to Tread Talks, where I walk on this treadmill to stay in shape while making videos for you fine people. If you grew up in the 80s, then you probably played Nintendo. And if you like Nintendo, you probably forced your parents to take you to see The Wizard in theaters, because it was a movie all about Nintendo. You had this kid who was amazing at video games, and his brother, played by Fred Savage, was taking him to California to compete in the video game championships. And most importantly, you would get to see Super Mario Bros. 3 for the first time in your life. Now, I was poor, and so I couldn't watch it in theaters. I had to wait until it came out on pay-per-view so we could order it through our cable company for $5. And it wasn't on demand. You had to look at the pay-per-view schedule and then call at the right time to get it to unscramble the signal. It felt high-tech at the time. And as a kid, I loved this movie. And not just because it was about Nintendo. I was fully bought into the family drama, the relationships, the character arcs, and so it's sad for me to see that the movie's mainly been dismissed as being a 90-minute commercial for Nintendo. For example, Roger Ebert's review ends with, "The Wizard is finally just a cynical exploitation film with a lot of commercial plugs in it, and it's so insanely overwritten and ineptly directed that it will disappoint just about everybody and serve them right for going in the first place." Well, I'm here to offer a different perspective, and to argue that it's much more than a commercial for Nintendo. In fact, there's nothing about video games until we're well into the movie. Everything that we start off with is about establishing the characters and their relationships with one another. The opening shot of the movie, with Jimmy slowly coming into focus, walking by himself on this empty stretch of road, is beautiful, and it conveys to us how isolated he is in his own mind. He's the only one that understands what he's trying to do for his sister, and because no one else gets it, he's the only one who can do it. And this was a great start to a sincere performance by Luke Edwards as Jimmy. When the movie was marketed, the only name you would hear in the trailers was Fred Savage.
Fred Savage.
But to me, Luke Edwards' performance is how I connected emotionally to the film. And this isn't to knock anyone else, this is actually a pretty good cast, but Edwards' performance is really overlooked. Now, if the movie works emotionally because of Jimmy, then it only works logically in terms of the story because of some heavy lifting by Fred Savage. He was the big get of the movie. He was riding high off of his performance in The Princess Bride, and more importantly, his starring role in The Wonder Years. And here he does a bulk of the work to convey the story to us and to help us understand how everyone is related to one another. He's how we know that Jimmy's his half-brother, he's how we know that the dad has problems with the mom, he's how we know that Jimmy is traumatized after the death of his sister. And he does all this while being believable and not falling into the trap of sounding like he's just reading us information. And on top of that, the main relationship between him and Haley still feels believable. It's the kind of performance between child actors that I saw more recently in It. And it's not because of a great script, it's because he and Jenny Lewis make something out of the material. And so a scene that could have otherwise been hitting you over the head with the fact that Haley's really insecure, instead comes off as more nuanced, and so the progression of their relationship feels more natural. And finally, I think the relationship between Sam and Nick is great on its own, but tainted by the rest of the movie. The scenes where they play just off each other are great because Beau Bridges and Christian Slater have really good chemistry, and it's nice to see how they make steps toward restoring their relationship. But then they have to interact with PUTNAM, the private detective who's also going after the kids. And man, he plays the villainy up to 11. And so whenever he is interacting with them, it really does come off as idiotic and ham-fisted. But at the same time, it was kind of great to just have a straight-up villain to root against, and the threat that he poses only gets worse as the movie progresses, so for me as a kid, it was great to see him get his comeuppance by way of a fake child sexual assault charge.
We're too late! He touched my breast!
And rogue truckers that beat him up for it.
So you touched her breasts, huh?
Oh my God.
If he was presented in a more realistic or sympathetic manner, then I wouldn't have had nearly as good a time cheering for the fact that he gets foiled in such an unfair way. And you know, in addition to the evil private detective, this movie is filled with great character actors. There's Bobblehead, the exasperated cop. There's the new husband, now with extra douchiness.
Well, Corey wants to run away, doesn't he? I mean, even if we brought him back, would it do any good?
There's this salesman that when I was a kid I was convinced was played by the same guy who played the Joker in the 1960s Batman.
Go on.
There's the poor diner lady who has a whole bunch of different types of monsters.
I got video monsters, I got movie monsters, I got graffiti on the wall monsters.
And of course you have Lucas, the original bro gamer, who unfortunately it turns out went on to become a registered sex offender. So didn't see that coming. But on a happier note, you have Spanky, who's just great. He keeps his cool when his friend's daughter randomly starts yelling things at him in a casino, he gives her his winnings, he beats up the private detective, he steals a truck to drive them to the competition, and he's the worst driver ever. And you've got this man who either wasn't told he would be an extra in a movie, or he was, and that's when he busted out the teal Speedo. Either way, he made an impression on me. And then there's this waitress who's pretty much the worst. Putnam goes up to her and says,
I'm looking for my lost son. He's handicapped. He's been missing for...
And then immediately, and in front of her, he grabs Corey and says,
I'm being paid to bring your little brainless brother back. Now point him out!
You can see the fear in Corey's face, and clearly Putnam just admitted that he lied, but the waitress just says,
Mister, you'll find your other son in the arcade.
Lady, you're the worst!
I hate you.
Now once we get to the competition, there are 3 standouts. One is the aggressive registration guy who taught me how to pronounce what I thought was Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden. Hey!
Thank you. Second is the tour operator who's really passionate about everyone having a good time.
Please sit down and have fun. Just sit down and have fun, damn it.
And finally you have the MC for the competition, whose gravelly voice still haunts me to this day.
The gorgeous Mora Grissom.
So yes, the movie was a commercial for Mario Bros. 3, but I can't see it as just being a cynical cash grab, because what I saw was a movie about a traumatized kid and a broken family. Video games are just the catalyst for them to grow. Yes, Jimmy's excited that he won the video game competition, and it helped his parents to know that he's not just a mental case, but he really finds closure when he's able to put the memories of his sister in a place where she would have really been happy. And Haley's arc is about breaking down that facade of confidence and security and finally feeling like you can be yourself with someone even though you're poor and you live in a trailer. And I can relate with the shame associated with being poor and not wanting to let people into your real life. And speaking of real life, and sorry for the tangent, but for some reason the main song that was chosen for the film was Real Life's Send Me an Angel. Send me an angel. That's the song that plays during the main traveling montage. It was my first exposure to 80s music, and you should check it out if you want to be transported back into 80s new wave nostalgia for a few minutes. So in the end, The Wizard won't be as interesting to you if you're not into video games. It's sometimes cheesy to the point of cringiness, and yes, it's a commercial for Mario Bros. 3. But at the same time, it's the best kind of commercial. The kind that's draped in real human relationships. The kind that has good performances and good chemistry. And yes, a fun video game tournament at Universal Studios. This isn't high-class filmmaking, but it was genuinely touching. And that's why I give The Wizard 3 stars if you don't care for video games, 3.5 if you're into them, and 4 stars if late 80s Nintendo games hit the nostalgia button for you the way they do for me. Okay, so that was The Wizard, and now I want to know, are there any movies out there that the general public looks down upon, but that you really enjoy? Whatever it is, leave it in the comments, I want to know. And beyond that, if you like this video and you want to keep up with my content, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and it would be great if you were a part of that group. And hit the little bell icon to be notified when a new video goes up. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.